Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to our buddy read of Mr. Scarborough's Family by Anthony Trollope. Don't want to block the bean's ear, although we already know what's going to happen in the course of this video. She's going to get up, stretch, do Frida yoga, jump over to the chair, realize I'm not there, jump back over here, and settle down next to me. That's all going to happen in this video. But we are reading through Mr. Scarborough's Family, Anthony Trollope's last really good novel, his last major novel, which he didn't even see into book form. He died before this could be finished and get reprinted as a book. And we are now in the falling motion of the novel. Trollope is fond of falling motion. He is fond of setting up more of a wave than a spike, so that there's a long drop-off point as well at the end of the book. He has a number of plot lines in the air, and he is slowly, patiently resolving them all. Which may be a little bit of a fake out. He may have something up else's sleeve, but for today, we are dealing with a chapter in which another one of those plot lines is wrapped up. We have met Mr. Scarborough, who has committed a gross legal enormity on the world by providing documentary evidence to his lawyer that his eldest son, Montjoy, is in fact illegitimate, and therefore cannot inherit Tretton Park, his wealthy landed estate. And that has caused a bombshell in society, of course, and Mr. Scarborough was already a bit of an infamous figure anyway. But it's also caused a huge amount of obsession and worry for Mr. Gray, his lawyer, which you would expect. And, by extension, for one of the most remarkable characters in the book, Dolly Gray, Mr. Gray's daughter. Mr. Gray is a widower. Dolly is his only child. They live together. She consults with him about every aspect of his law firm. And has very little else in the way of a life. She doesn't really like the family of Mr. Gray's sister, but puts up with them and even is nice to them. She does charitable work, but she has no friends. She has no other family. She has just her father. She's totally devoted to him. And recently, Mr. Gray's partner, his law firm partner, Mr. Barry, decides to pitch woo to Dolly. He decides that he would like to marry her. And she thinks the idea is absurd. Rather morbidly, in very Victorian tones, she talks to her father about how he's the only man that she loves, and she wishes that when he dies, she could die too, right then. But he says that is not going to be true. She's going to outlive him for a long time. And wouldn't it be miserable to be alone for that whole time? That plotline is still in the air, because when Mr. Barry came and proposed this whole idea, Dolly shot him down. But, again, according to the conventions of the day, he feels like that's just preliminary, and that he should get to try many other times. So this is our next chapter, chapter 52. This is Mr. Barry again. Mr. Barry has given me to understand that he means to come down tomorrow. This was said by Mr. Gray to his daughter. What does he come down here for? I suppose you know why he wants to come here, said the father. Then the father was silent, and for some time Dolly remained silent also. He is coming to ask you to consent to be his wife. Why do you let him come, Papa? I cannot hinder him. That is in the first place. And then I don't want to prevent his coming. Oh, Papa, I do not want to prevent his coming. And I do not wish you now at this instant to pledge yourself to anything. I cannot but pledge myself. You can at any rate remain silent while I speak to you. There was a solemnity in his manner which almost awed her, so that she could only come near to him and sit close to him, holding his hand in hers. I wish you to hear what I have got to say to you, and to make no answer till you shall make it tomorrow, after having fully considered the whole matter. In the first place, he is an honest and good man, and certainly will not ill-treat you. Is that so much? It is a good deal as men go. It should be a great deal to me to be sure if I left you in the hands of one who is, of his nature, tender and affectionate. That is something, but not enough. And then he is a careful man, who will certainly screen you from all want, and he is prudent, walking around the world with his eyes open, much wider than your father has ever done. Here she only pressed his hand. There is nothing to be said against him, except that something which you spotted at once when you said that he was not a gentleman. According to your ideas and to mine, he is not quite a gentleman, but we are both fastidious. I ask you, what does that mean? I'm not asking you to haul out your Victorian history books. I'm asking, in the context of this novel, what does that mean? Mr. Barry is honest. He's prudent. He's a partner in a law firm. What does it mean that he's not a gentleman? What are they saying when they say that? Especially when apparently your level of fastidiousness can affect it. We must pay the penalty for our tastes in that respect, says Dorothy. You are paying the penalty now by your present doubts, but it is not yet too late for you to get the better of it. Though I have acknowledged that he is not quite a gentleman, he is by no means the reverse. You are quite a lady. I hope so. But you are not particularly good-looking. Papa, you are not complimentary. My dear, I do not intend to be so. To me, your face, such as it is the sweetest thing on earth to look upon. Oh, Papa, dear Papa, and she threw her arms round his neck and kissed him. But, having lived so long with me, you have acquired my habits and thoughts, and have learned to disregard utterly your outward appearance. Well, I would be decent and clean and womanly, and Trollope has told us that she is. That is not enough to attract the eyes of men in general, but he has seen deeper than most men do. Into the value of the business, you mean, she said, because she suspects that the reason why he wants to marry her is so that he will inherit the whole of the business when Mr. Grey dies. And let's not lose sight of the fact that she's right about that. No, Dolly, I will not have that. That is ill-natured, and as I believe, altogether untrue. But it isn't altogether untrue. Mr. Grey is just a little bit of a ninny. Mr. Scarborough's estimate of him was correct. He is a bit of a fool. I think of Mr. Barry that he would not marry any girl for the sake of business unless he loved her. Well, that is nonsense, Papa. How can Mr. Barry love me? Did he and I ever have 5 minutes free conversation together? Unless he meant to love you would be nearer to the mark, and knew that he could do so. You will be quite safe in his hands. Safe? Papa? I know none of you are paying any attention to me now, but I'm going to keep going. I don't tell her to go up there, and I can't tell her to go down from there. I don't direct where she goes. She goes where she wants. So much for yourself. Now I must say a few words as to myself. You are not bound to marry him or anyone else to do me a good turn, but I think you are bound to remember what my feelings would be if on my deathbed I were leaving you alone in the world. As far as money is concerned, you would have enough for all your wants, but that is all that you would have. You have become so thoroughly my friend that you have hardly another real friend in the world. That is my disposition. Yes, but I must guard against the ill effects of that disposition. I know that if some man came along, whom you could love in truth, you would make the sweetest wife that ever a man possessed. Oh, Papa, how you talk. No such man will come the way, and there's an end on it. Mr. Barry has come the way, and as things go, is deserving of your regard. My advice to you is to accept him. Now you will have 24 hours to think of that advice, and to think of your own future condition. How will life go with you if you should be left living in this house all alone? Why do you speak as though we were to be parted tomorrow? Well, tomorrow or the next day, he said very solemnly, the day will surely come before long. Mr. Barry may not be all that your fancy has imagined. Decidedly not, says Dorothy. But he has those good qualities which your reason should appreciate. Think it over, my darling. And now we will say no more about Mr. Barry till he shall have been here and pleaded his own cause. Then there was not another word said on the subject between them, and on the next morning Mr. Grey went away to his chambers as usual. So there is no late night tapping on her door. There is no late night discussion where she sits on his bed and talks things over. Though she had strenuously opposed her father through the whole of the conversation above given, still, as it had gone on, she had resolved to do what he would have her. Not, indeed, that is, to marry this suitor, but to turn him over in her mind yet again, and find out whether it would be possible that she should do so. She had dismissed him on that former occasion, and had not since given a thought to him, except as a nuisance of which she had so far rid herself. Now the nuisance had come again, and she was to endeavor to ascertain how far she could accustom herself to its perpetual presence, without incurring perpetual misery. But it has to be acknowledged that she did not begin the inquiry in a fair frame of mind. She declared to herself that she would think about it all night and all the morning without a prejudice, so that she might be able to accept him if she found it possible. But at the same time there was present to her a high black stone wall, at one side of which stood herself, while Mr. Barry was on the other. That there should be any clambering over that wall by either of them she felt to be quite impossible, though at the same time she acknowledged that a miracle might occur by which the wall would be removed. So she began her thinking and used all her father's arguments. Mr. Barry was an honest and good, and would not ill-treat her. She knew nothing about him, but would take all that for granted as though it were gospel, because her father had said so. And then it was that to her a fact that she was by no means good-looking, the meaning of which was that no other man would probably want her. Then she remembered her father's words, "To me, your face is the sweetest thing upon earth to look on." This she did believe. Her plainness did not come against her there. Why should she rob her father of the one thing which to him was sweet in the world? And to her father was the one noble human being whom she had ever known. Why should she rob herself of his daily presence? Then she told herself, as she had told him, that she had never had 5 minutes free conversation with Mr. Barry in her life. That certainly was no reason why free conversation should not be commenced. But then she did not believe that free conversation was within the capacity of Mr. Barry. It would never come, though she might be married to him for 20 years. He too might perhaps talk about his business, but there would be none of those considerations as to radical good or evil which made the nucleus of all such conversations with her father. Because they don't just talk about the ins and outs of the court cases that he's doing. They talk about the right and wrong of it. And she doesn't believe Mr. Barry is a creature who can understand right and wrong. Legal and illegal, yes, but not right and wrong. And so the whole pith of the conversation would be gone. There would be a flatness about it all, which would make any such interchange of words impossible. It would be as though she had been married to a log of wood, or rather to a beast of the field, as regarded all sentiment. How much money would be coming to him, now her father had not told her how much money was coming to him. There had been no allusion to that branch of the subject. And then there came other thoughts as to that interior life which it would be her destiny to lead with Mr. Barry. Then came a black cloud upon her face as she sat thinking about it. Never, at last she said, never, never. He is very foolish not to know that it is impossible. The he of whom she then spoke was her father, not Mr. Barry. If I have to be left alone, I shall not be the first. Others have been left alone before me. I shall at any rate be left alone. Then the wall became higher and more black than ever, and there was no coming of that miracle by which it was to be removed. It was clearer to her than ever that neither of them could climb it. And after all, she said to herself, to know that your husband is not a gentleman, ought not that to be enough? Of course, a woman has to pay for her fastidiousness. Like other luxuries, it is costly. But then, like other luxuries, it cannot be left aside. So before that morning was gone, she had made up her mind steadily that Mr. Barry should never be her lord and master. How could she best make him understand it was so that she might quickly get rid of him? When the first hour of thinking was done after breakfast, and it was that which filled her mind, she was sure that he would not take an answer easily and go. He would have to be prepared by her father to persevere, not by his absolute words, but by his mode of speaking. Her father would have given him to understand that she was still in doubt, and therefore might possibly be talked over. She must teach him at once, as well as she could, that such was not her character, and that she had come to a resolution which left him no chance. And she was guilty of one weakness which was almost unworthy of her. When the time came, she changed her dress, and put on an old shabby frock, with which she was wont to call upon the Carrolls, her in-laws. Her best dresses were all kept for her father, and perhaps accounted for that opinion that to his eyes her face was the sweetest thing on earth to look upon. As she sat there waiting for Mr. Barry, she certainly did look 10 years older than her age. In truth, both Mr. Gray and Dolly had been somewhat mistaken in their reading of Mr. Barry's character. There was more of intellect and merit in him than he had obtained credit for from either of them. He did care very much for the income of the business, and perhaps his first idea in looking for Dolly's hand had been the probability that he would thus obtain the whole of that income for himself, eventually, when Mr. Gray dies. But while wanting money, he wanted also some of the good things which ought to accompany it, because he knows he doesn't have them. Refinement is the word that we're not going to get here, but refinement is what he wants. He knows he's not a gentleman, in other words, whatever that means. A superior intellect, an intellect slightly superior to his own, of which he could not think meanly, a power of conversation which he might imitate, and that fineness of thought which he flattered himself he might be able to achieve while living with the daughter of a gentleman. These were the treasures which Mr. Barry hoped to gain by marriage with Dorothy Gray. And there had been something in her personal appearance which, to his eyes, had not been distasteful. He did not think her face the sweetest thing in the world to look at, as her father had done, but he saw in it the index of that intellect which he had desired to obtain for himself. As for her dress, that of course should be altered. He imagined that he could easily become so far the master of his wife as to make her wear fine clothes without difficulty. But then, he did not know Dolly Gray. So kind of the key thing here is that these people don't know each other. He's thinking about marriage with someone he's never even spoken to. But what do we make of this? Sorry to keep interrupting, but what do we make of this? He wants to marry her not mainly for the business, but mainly for her mind. Shouldn't that be a positive thing? Why is it that Trollope goes out of his way to make sure that it doesn't read as a positive thing? Why? Is it that he wants to suck these things out of her and then have, what, superiority? I think this is one of the most late in Trollope's life. This is what I always wish when a writer that I really like is dying. I really wish that they could not be dying. I really wish I could get 30 more books and that they would just keep growing in their insights into humanity. And this is one of those times where I wonder what Trollope would have made. I wonder what he would have made of the 1920s, actually, to tell you the truth. That's what I wonder. But anyway, he had studied deeply his manner of attacking her. He would be very humble at first, but after a while his humility should be discontinued, whether she accepted or rejected him. He knew well that it did not become a husband to be humble, and as regarded a lover, he thought that humility was merely the outside gloss of love-making. He had been humble enough on the former occasion, and would begin now in the same strain, but after a while he would stir himself and assume the manner of a man. "Miss Gray," he said, as soon as they were alone, "you see that I have been as good as my word, and have come again." He had already observed her old frock and her mode of dressing up her hair, and had guessed the truth. He'd guessed the reason why she did it. "I knew that you were to come, Mr. Barry." "Your father told you so?" "Yes." "And he has spoken a good word in my favor?" "Yes, he has." "Which I trust will be effective?" "Not at all." He knows that it is the only subject on which I cannot take his advice. I would burn my hand off for my father, but I cannot afford to give it to anyone at his instance. It must be exclusively my own, unless someone should come very different from those who are likely to ask for it. Oh, Dolly. There was something Mr. Barry thought of offense in this, but he could not altogether throw off his humility as yet. "I quite admit the value of the treasure," he said, meaning her hand. "There need not be any nonsense between us, Mr. Barry. It has no special value to anyone, except to myself, and to myself I mean to keep it. At my father's instance, I have thought over the proposition you have made me much more seriously than I had thought it possible that I should do." "That is not flattering," he said. "There is no need for flattery either on the one side or the other. You had better take that as established. You have done me the honor of wishing for certain reasons that I should be your wife." "Well, the common reason, that I love you. But I am not able to return the feeling, and do not therefore wish that you should be my husband. That sounds to be uncivil, I know." "It rather does, yes. But I say it in order to make you understand the exact truth. A woman cannot love a man because she feels for him even the most profound respect. She will often do so when there is neither respect nor esteem. My father has so spoken of you to me that I do esteem you, but that has no effect in touching my heart. Therefore I cannot become your wife." Now, as Mr. Barry thought, had come the time for which he must assert himself. "Miss Gray," he said, "you have probably a long life before you." "Long or short, it can make no difference. If I understand you aright, you are one who lives very much to yourself." "To myself and my father." "But he is growing in years." "So am I, for that matter. We are all growing in years." "Have you looked out for yourself and thought what manner of home yours will be when he shall be dead and buried?" He paused, but she remained silent, and assumed a special cast of countenance, as though she might say a word, if he pressed her, which would be disagreeable for him to hear. What would that word be, I wonder? What was the first thing that came to her mind when he talked about her father being dead and buried? If she were blurter, she doesn't blurt things, but if she were blurter, would she have blurted out better you than him? "When he is gone, will you not be very solitary without a husband?" "No doubt I shall." "Had you not better accept one when one comes your way who is not, as he tells you, quite unworthy of you?" In spite of such worth, solitude would be preferable. You certainly have a knack, Miss Grey, for making the most unpalatable assertions. I will make another more unpalatable. Solitude I could bear, and death, but not such a marriage. You force me to tell you the whole truth because half a truth will not suffice. She told the man to his face that she'd rather die than marry him. It's time to quit. I have endeavored to be at least civil to you, he said, and I have endeavored to save you what trouble I could bring by being straightforward. Still he paused, sitting in his chair uneasily, but looking as though he had no intention of going. If you only take my word and have done with it, she said, but he's still sitting there. Still he did not move. I suppose there are young ladies who like this kind of thing, and I have become old enough, but I've become old enough to hate it. Because he's not moving. She's told him, go. The answer is no. And he just sits there. I have had very little experience of it, but it is odious to me. I can conceive of nothing more disagreeable than to have to sit still and hear a gentleman declare that he wants to make me his wife when I'm quite sure that I do not intend to make him my husband. Then, Miss Grey, he said, finally rising from his chair, I bid you adieu. Goodbye, Mr. Barry. Goodbye, Miss Grey. Farewell. And so he went. Oh, Papa, we have had such a scene, she said, the moment she found herself alone with her father. You have not accepted him. Accepted him? Oh, dear, no. I am sure this moment he is only thinking how he would cut my throat if he could get hold of me. You must have offended him very greatly. Oh, mortally. I said everything possibly I could to offend him. But then he would have been here still had I not done so. There was no other way to get rid of him, or indeed to make him believe that I was in earnest. I am sorry that you should have been so ungracious. Of course I am ungracious, but how can you stand bandying compliments with a man when it is his object to make him know the very truth that is in you? It was your fault, Papa. You ought to have understood how very impossible it is that I should marry Mr. Barry. So that might be the wrapping up of one final plotline. That Dolly Grey is just going to stay devoted to her father, and then, as she has put it in an earlier chapter, when the unfortunate day comes and her father dies, well, then she will be devoted to the Carroll children. She's the best, aunt that she can be to them, but she'll be devoted to them. An unworthy cause, and one that she hates because she doesn't like them. They're brutish children. Nevertheless, that is at least a feint at finishing this plot line, and we will move on to the finish of another plot line or something else. It's not all falling action from here on out, folks. I will wrap this up. I will see you all next time. Thank you, BookTube.